2 days ago. Was it a day ago? No, 24 hours ago, wasn't it? The New Hampshire primaries were conducted to find the Republican challenger, or at least to be the second stage after the Iowa caucus, in finding the Republican challenger to US incumbent President Joe Biden. The result of that has come in, and as I said to you earlier, Donald Trump won a good victory, not resounding, but a good victory, you'd have to say. He got, I think, about 5% of the vote. His nearest challenger, Nikki Haley, got 43% of the vote. I'm just going off what the New York Times have reported this morning. With, I think, about 91% of the vote counted, so it's not going to make any difference. He has won that, and they're heading off to, I think they're off to Nevada is the next place. It's start of this long, slow process that the Americans have to find both candidates for the Democrat and the Republican primary. Rather interestingly, a third party has entered that, and that's Robert F. Kennedy. And I think he is the youngest son of the former US Attorney General, wasn't it? Robert Kennedy, JFK's younger brother, who was assassinated, as I remember, by Sirhan Sirhan in 1968. Dreadful year that year, because that was also the year that Martin Luther King was shot. And there were a series of large varieties. Oh, gosh, the United States was in foment in 1968, as was France. I think they got rid of de Gaulle as the president of France, and everybody thought the whole world was going to change. I'm not sure that it did, but it was one of those moments in history that if you live through it or you're aware of it, you would never forget it. That might well still be the case in 2024, as this most bizarre, it appears to outsiders, presidential contest is shaping up, which may well see, and I think for the first time ever, the election of a president who had lost the presidency, or the re-election of a president. Anyhow, we're talking now to Professor Prof Hoadley, who is one of New Zealand's, I would suggest to you, leading political commentators when it comes to US presidency, but also of the US political system and in international affairs in general. And he joins us now. Professor, lovely to hear from you. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Michael. That's very kind of you.
No, you are. You've given good and I think very impartial and objective and accurate, surprisingly accurate for an academic commentary over the years.
Is that a commentary on academics? Anyway, we'll give it a try. Yeah, how can I help, Michael?
Listen, Absolutely. Professor, I was just thinking that if Donald Trump got re-elected at the end of the year, and we'll talk about that in just a second, is he the first US president that would be re-elected having lost the presidency?
Well, look, your understanding of history is just as good as mine, and so let's go with that supposition. I guess the question is, does it make any difference? Does it make him different to any other president? I think we have to look at his merits, what he did when he was in office previously, and try to project what will he possibly do if he becomes president once again.
I will do that in just a second, but I was just thinking, would that mean that he could serve 8 years, 12 years as the president? So if he got re-elected this time in November and served 4 and then got re-elected again, he would have essentially served 12 years as the US president, wouldn't he? Is he allowed to do that, or is it a maximum of 8 years?
Excellent question, Michael, and I've looked up the Constitution on that exact question, and the answer is he can be elected twice. So he's been elected once, so he can be elected one more time. So the bad news is he might be reelected. The good news is he can only serve one further term.
Oh, so he can only do a one term, he can only serve, and that makes the total of 8 years, even though it's been broken up by 4 years of Joe Biden.
That's right. He can be elected a maximum of twice. Now, normally, a president's elected twice in succession. for an 8-year or 2 4-year terms, making 8 years. Now, Trump has done it a little, maybe we'll do it a little differently. His terms will be broken with a space in between, a Biden space. Well, let's see how this one plays out. But the question is, will it make any difference? Will he be a new Trump? Will he somehow be more amenable to mainstream politics? Because now he's older, he's more mature, he's had experience, he's gone through a number of traumas. He's denied the previous election, but of course he will endorse the current election if he wins, and he'll rubbish it if he doesn't win.
These are all questions that are good. I would have expected, to be perfectly honest with you, when you're 70-something, you're probably not likely to change your character. What would your thoughts be?
Yeah, that's probably true. Certainly, I've seen Trump this morning, matter of fact, on CNN, and it looks like the same old Trump to me. He lashes out at his personality politics. He insults his opponents. He has no respect for anybody except himself. His policies are quite thin and quite divisive. So, yeah, it looks like the same old Trump. So, again, I think we can look at his presidency as an indicator of what a future Trump presidency might hold for us.
Okay. So given all the criticisms that you've just made, and they have been, I think, uniformly shared throughout most Western commentators on Donald Trump, how come he is currently leading Joe Biden by anything between 1 and 4 points in all the polls that I've seen at the moment, and has a very good chance of being re-elected as the President of the United States of America?
Another good question, and the answer is, in short, number one, the U.S. economy has turned in such a way that the middle class of America that used to work in the auto industry, for example, and a whole lot of other industries, has gone south, literally gone south. That is, the jobs have gone to Mexico, to Asia, to other countries, and consequently those middle-class Americans, largely male, largely not college educated, not university educated, are now finding it more difficult to get the good jobs that they have. Mortgage payments have gone up. Their standard of living has gone down. The prospects for their children have gone down. So there's a lot of malaise, economic malaise out there, and this has been blamed on the Democrats for some reason, and Donald Trump because of his very persuasive persona. And you have to admit, he is a riveting character. If you look at him on television, like him or loathe him, he does command attention. He makes promises. I don't think he can deliver on those promises, and he certainly did not during his presidency. But the promises are enough to galvanize his base, mainly Republican voters, mainly less educated, mainly white, mainly Midwestern, not the Atlantic or Pacific Seacoast, but the Midwestern states. And they're the ones who are his base. If you look at the poll in New Hampshire, for example, you find that he did get, as you say, 54% of the vote. Not spectacular, by the way. Amongst Republicans, he got maybe 70, 80%, but amongst independents, he only got 30%. Well, so the job for Trump and the Republicans is to capture the middle ground, the independent voter, the swing voter, if you wish. They've got the base. The Republican base is locked up amongst the grievance vote, I would call it, but that's not going to win the election without capturing some of the voters in the middle, the urban, the suburban middle class women, for example, that have education. They've fled from the Republican Party, which they would naturally gravitate to the Democratic Party, or maybe they'll flee to non-vote. And you may want to talk about the relative attraction of Joe Biden. So I'll
the other thing that strikes me as well, you're absolutely right. I think The Economist magazine last week looked at a series of economic indicators and said, well, are they better under Biden than under Trump, and came to the conclusion that Trump had a better story to tell than Joe Biden currently does now. But there's also that intractable immigration issue, which it seems from afar, Stephen, is having an impact also, particularly I would imagine in states that are impacted by it?
Yeah, immigration and abortion seem to be the two big issues at the moment. Foreign policy hardly figures, although that will become an issue and certainly of great interest to me, but to the average voter, they don't really focus on foreign affairs. Why immigration? Now, that's a curious one. The immigration is actually good for the United States. You wonder why the United States isn't bankrupt, given its colossal debt. It's because the population continues to renew itself with younger, ambitious, hardworking immigrants who come in and keep the economy going. And the employers love the immigrants because they work at relatively low wages. They want to stay and they work hard. They're good performers. So consequently, the United States is somewhat, particularly the states that depend on workers for agricultural work, are ambivalent about immigration. But it's become a red button issue amongst the Republicans, who feel that somehow the non-white immigrants, and they are largely non-white, aside from a few from New Zealand and Australia, and they feel threatened in their ethnic identity. So identity politics, the politics of passion rather than logic, again, takes over, and this is largely fuels the Republican and the Trump base.